Ultimately, all plans, whether they're strategic or tactical, whether you're using OKRs or you're using EOS or whatever, or you're just doing it by the seat of your pants, ultimately you want to translate that into a financial vision that others believe in. And that second point is important, that others believe in. By working with the CEO on it, in some cases, very regular basis, depending on whether it's, during a planning season, for example, is to sit down and say, okay, what's your org look like? What's your tech stack look like? What are your OpEx that are going to be outside of that? What's your down into, what's your travel, meals, and entertainment? And looking at all of that and saying, okay, here's the impact on cash, here's the impact on the P&L.
Welcome back to another episode of the We Live to Build podcast. This is episode 221 with Anthony Nitsos, the founder and lead guru of SaaS Gurus, a fractional CFO firm that focuses on SaaS brands, whether you've raised money from investors or you bootstrapped yourself to profit. This was a fantastic conversation. We talked about what is a fractional expert, what is a CFO, what can you expect from working with that person, when should you be looking to hire that person, what is some of the benefits of that, different kinds of fundraising, whether it's equity fundraising or venture debt fundraising, and so much more. So I know you're going to enjoy this episode if you're looking at possibly hiring experts to work with you. So let's get into it. Of all of the things that you could do with your life, what made you want to support startups? Because it's not easy.
I got my hands on science fiction book when I was 7, my very first one, Miss Pickrell Goes to Mars. And I was hooked on science fiction since then. So bleeding edge technology. A lot of stuff that I read in science fiction as a kid, frankly, is true now as fact, right? The cell phone is one of them. Only in Star Trek, it took them 24 hours to get an answer back from computer. Now it takes 24 milliseconds or something ridiculous like that. So startups are like the cutting edge of that. This is the cool stuff that everybody's experimenting with. Most of our clients in the last 12 months are AI. So we are deeply into the wave of AI from the back office, if you will. But there with the CEOs because it's a finance strategic position as well.
I got into startups because I had previously been successful with a non-startup based business, and I thought, hey, shouldn't be too difficult to 10x or 100x my stack using some profit from that business. Horribly wrong. I learned a lot, but here I am back again after several years of taking a break because I still believe in it somehow, as long as the company is doing something valuable.
If you're looking for stability, if you're looking like doing the same thing over and over again, working in the startup space is not that. And I like that. That's attractive to me from a personality perspective. I like the new and the different. So I happened upon it in a bit of a circuitous manner. It's not like I planned to be this, expert in SaaS and finance, back in like when I was in college or something. And by the time I got here, it had been a long and winding road.
What is a CFO?
We are the strategic enabler on the finance side of your business. Chief Financial Officer. I also like to joke Chief Flushing Officer because we're the ones that have to clean up a lot of the messes on the finance side of things. Um, we are basically there to advise you on all things money. Primarily, it's a I want to say a two-faced, but it's a two-pronged perspective. There's the accounting perspective, which is this is what's happened. We're going to measure ourselves against benchmarks. We're going to evaluate whether we hit plan or not. And then there's the other side of it, which is looking forward to say, here's what's coming. Primarily through planning for cash. We spend a lot of time on that. So I like to joke I'm the cash flow oracle. I'm not the chief financial officer. And that's really what we are. We're financial enablers. We're there to make sure that the company has the resources financially to plan appropriately.
What point in a business's life cycle should they be thinking about having a CFO involved?
Well, because it's not ridiculously priced, you can access those kinds of resources very early on. And accessing them early on doesn't cost nearly as much as accessing them later if they have to clean up a mess that had been created because accounting or finance or whatnot hadn't been done correctly. In SaaS, there's a right way and wrong way of doing your finance and your accounting. there are benchmarks. There's agreed upon ways that we say, here's how we're going to measure SaaS companies. And you want to set those up early from the beginning, because going back and re-engineering and cleaning them up is more expensive. So get in early, get it set up right, and then you don't have to worry about, re-engineering anything later.
You don't need to have someone full time who's working for equity. You can hire someone known as a fractional expert, and that's what your business does. You're a fractional CFO. Can you speak to what the fractional part really means and how a founder should understand what they're getting for that?
It really depends on the level of service that the fractional CFO firm, if you will, or person can deliver. In our case, we're not, there are a lot of people out there that do that as a single shingle, right? They have, they do a fractional CFO here and there, but we're an established business. So we have multiple clients literally across the world in multiple different industries. And so we're able to, plug and play that knowledge across the entire portfolio. So if we have a customer over here, or a client over here that's experiencing X, we can say, look, we've solved that issue over here. We don't have to experiment. We can tell you how to execute on that. So there's a lot of that cross flow of information between, best practices across not just, our industry, but our clients within our own clients, right? Because they're kind of I don't want to say a test bed, but we're constantly trying to improve things. The Japanese drilled into me that Kaizen is the way that you should always operate your business. And so I do, constantly looking for ways to make it better for my clients.
That's something that I am getting the benefit from a business coach I'm working with right now, who's focused on helping people to grow their business on LinkedIn, which is something that's extremely not well understood, specifically for the focus of building an audience that converts into paying clients. And he also has an agency that has dozens of clients, and so he tests everything with them, and then he teaches us what he's learned from helping them. So I think that's really great, because it's not like, oh well, I don't know, let's try this thing or let's try this thing. Like, he actually has done it, so he knows from experience, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And so I really appreciate that, because we're paying a lot of money to access this knowledge.
We like to be very efficient. I don't believe that this stuff that we do should be rocket science and should be opaque to owners and CEOs. So in a lot of cases, we're making the finance side of it accessible, in ways that make sense to them, and they can interpret the numbers. Then when they're standing in front of a board or investors, they know they have the right numbers. They're not questioning them. But there's also the strategic side, which is what's your company worth? When you're structuring your contracts with your customers, are you doing it for maximum ARR, therefore maximum valuation? Are you hitting all the buttons on the SaaS side of things? Are you protecting yourself in the back in terms of insurance and risk mitigation? Do you have a proper cybersecurity profile? We're not. I don't believe in, like, I'm just the numbers guy. I'm the doctor of the company, if you will, in terms of analyzing and understanding the finance side of it. There isn't a single thing that a company does that doesn't have a financial impact. And so knowing where that's all going, yeah.
So why is the CEO the leader of the company and not the CFO?
They have the strategic vision. I don't know how to put together the software platforms that my clients do. That's not my forte. But I know how to really help them. I know how to make sure that we're going for the most valuation for their company ultimately. Let's face it, the vast majority of our startups are looking for an exit at some time, whether it's, in the near or intermediate future, right? They're looking for an exit. So I'm always thinking of that exit alongside of them to say, okay, are you ultimately a strategic? Are you ultimately a roll up? Are you ultimately, do you have the moxie to actually IPO yourself? I mean, all those questions come into play. And having somebody who understands how that side of the business works and positioning you early for that, is invaluable. Having done SaaS for years and years and years, we've been through a lot of activity, both on the M&A side as well as the nuts and bolts, if you will, the supporting of making sure your metrics are right. There's the whole strategic side of it.
If someone comes to you looking to hire you and they can't answer you, what is your goal? What's your exit plan? You'll still work with them anyways.
They're either going to exit or they're going to die. Okay. You're going to fail. You're not going to make it. it's not that. That's not it. I want them to succeed. So far, we've had a really good track record of keeping our clients from going under or helping them, right? I mean, ultimately, it's you said, what's the role of the CEO? They're the leader. They're the ones that they're providing the strategic vision. We're there to make sure that, like I said, as best we can, make sure they achieve that.
When someone comes to me and they pitch me, they would like, I need your help to fundraise, or I want your help to fix my pitch, whatever. I will tell them, you're not fundable. I'll just be honest. I can't help you to fundraise because as though your business is right now, without some serious work on the internal aspects of how your business is run, your team, your this, your that, you are not fundable. If you felt like someone was going to die, will you still take on the case to try to prevent them from dying? Or would you just go, look, I'm sorry, like there's nothing I can do for you?
The entrance is, does a client come to me with, they're so messed up that no, we would just be taking money from them? No. I've never had that kind of a prospect show up at my doorstep. I'd say without exception, our clients are showing up after they've already been funded in some manner. Okay, I've got $250,000, or I have, $2.5 million, or I've got whatever it happens to be. It depends on the stage of the company, but we have them all the way from the beginning. Very few. I've had a couple of times where I've had somebody come to me on spec and say, okay, I need you to put together the business plan. And so I need and help with the pitch deck where they don't have any funding. Those I usually do on a fixed fee basis and make it very clear what the scope of work is so that they don't go, crazy. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on something that's ultimately not going to work. Like, for example, they came to me and said, okay, we want you to build out a financial model. I said, what are your assumptions? What's your go-to-market strategy? What's your lead gen machine look like? What are your conversion rates? Have you thought through what that looks like? Oh, we don't have any of that figured out. That right there kind of tells me that this is probably not going to be something where they're going to get a lot of interest. So would I tell them no? No. It's possible that they might get something, and we price ourselves very reasonably to help somebody in the very early stages. It's not like I'm going to charge them 10 grand to put together a model. That would be, robbery. I'm going to give them a fair price. And like I said, I've learned over the years, make the scope very clear. We're not there to succeed or fail your business. We're there to strategically enable you.
Is the CFO's role to say, this is your vision, this is how much you need to make it happen, go get that money, or with the money you have, that vision is not possible? Or like what do you do specifically for the CEO at that higher level to enable that vision or to disable the vision because it's ridiculous?
Ultimately, all plans, whether they're strategic or tactical, whether you're using OKRs or you're using EOS or whatever, or you're just doing it by the seat of your pants, ultimately you want to translate that into a financial vision that others believe in. And that second point is important, that others believe in. By working with the CEO on it, in some cases, very regular basis, depending on whether it's, during a planning season, for example, is to sit down and say, okay, what's your org look like? What's your tech stack look like? What are your OpEx that are going to be outside of that? What's your down into, what's your travel, meals, and entertainment? And looking all of that and saying, okay, here's the impact on cash. Here's the impact on the P&L. Here's the impact on your important SaaS metrics, if that's in fact what you do. And then you measure yourself against that. So it's a visioning process in that, you make a lot of assumptions about sales. You make a lot of assumptions about leads and what your top line is going to look like. And then you make in some cases, easier assumptions about the org. Who's it going to take? How many developers do you need? What do you need in the sales and marketing department? What's your back office profile look like? And using that org planning piece, which is, if you're a SaaS company, anywhere from 60 to 80% of your cost is people. It's not like in the old days. It's not in the old days where we're moving widgets around, right? It's, we're moving bits and bytes at this point. So, in that regards, you're helping them envision, specifically how to do it. In a lot of cases, the advanced cases, they are taking, the quarterly, key results, the actual QKRs off the entire OKR plan, if you will, or some form of it, and linking that to financial metrics. We have, what you want to do in a more mature company is make sure that your various departments are working properly. from a financial perspective, that you're being efficient with your money. Your investors want you to be efficient with your money too. They don't want you like burning it in great big campfires, right? It's like, let's go staff up 30 people. Yeah, okay, let's go jump off a cliff because you're going to have a train wreck on your hands if you do that. Yeah, providing that guidance as well. I've had companies come to me with a growth plan that says, yeah, we're going to bring in, they're 30 people now. Yeah, we're going to bring in 30 people on September 1st. I said, no, you're not. That's not going to happen, right?
Hey, just give me 10 seconds of your time. I really appreciate you listening to the episode so far, and I hope you're loving it. And if you are, I would love to ask you to subscribe to the channel, because what we do is a lot of work, and every week we bring you a new guest and a new story, and what we do requires so much love so that we can bring you something amazing. And every week we're trying really hard to get better guests that have better stories and improve our ability to tell their stories. So your subscription lets the algorithm know that what we're doing is fantastic. And no commitment, it's free to do. And if you don't like what we're doing later on, you can always unsubscribe. And either way, we would love a like if you don't feel like subscribing at this time. Thank you very much, and we'll take you back maybe over the next 6 to 9 months, possibly.
Well, at some reasonable, absorption rate where you don't kill your existing people because they still have day jobs to do in addition to bringing people up to speed. Yeah, that's people don't think of a CFO in that role in terms of the org plan, but we're deep into it because we're having the conversation about here's what the salary is going to look like to hire those 3 developers that you need to put this particular product on the roadmap by September or whatever the deadline is. It gets down into that far into the discussions.
Can't the COO do this stuff? I mean, I had my COO do it.
A lot of CEOs are totally capable of doing it. Yes, you don't have to have a fractional CFO. It's if you don't have that function either in your head or somebody else who does that. And in many cases, it's also a la carte. There could very well be a COO who handles all that. And my role at that point is to be very strategic to their CFO or to their controller and say, here's how we're going to do it for SaaS. We have lots of clients where we're engaged at, say, the controller and the CEO level. And then we have other clients where we are the controller and we're the bookkeeper and we're the whole back office. It really depends on what the client need is. And that's the nice thing about the fractional space now is that if you're at a really small startup and you just need kind of basic initial support, great. We'll set up your chart of accounts. We'll get your financial reports set up. We'll get your bookkeeping taken care of. We'll make sure, though, that it's set up for SaaS from day one, so you don't have to redo anything, and save yourself literally thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars later, depending on how far down the road you are.
What is something that you see startup founders do consistently wrong when you meet them?
Word of mouth is great. If you build it, they will come. Field of dreams doesn't work a lot unless you have an active plan on how you're going to get customers and how you're going to convert them, how you're going to convert prospects into customers. I should say how you're going to get prospects, right? A good inbound and outbound thought out strategy. It's unlikely you're going to succeed. Now, it could be you're in proof of concept stage. Somebody says, "Hey, I think this is a product that's worth doing. I'm an industry insider. I see this problem. I go get some money, hire a dev team. I come up with a solution. I get myself a minimum viable product." People are like, "Hey, yeah, I would pay money for that." You go for the next round, for example. We've done that. Now we've got to figure out how to scale this up. Okay, we know that we have good product market fit. Now we need to get to the market. If you haven't really thought through how you're going to do that, you're going to waste money figuring it out. The question is, do you waste so much money that you don't figure it out and your business goes south, or you burn cash and do figure it out? Or you find the right resources to help you, which is just another way of saying spending money to figure it out. We have two kind of CEOs that we work with a lot. I hate categorizing people too broadly, but there definitely is a different set between a venture-backed CEO and their company and a bootstrapper. I've been doing this for a while, not to say that, I know how the world works in depth, but my experience is that the bootstrappers tend to be market insiders who have identified a problem, go out, hire a dev team, and they already have their go-to-market figured out. That's how they're able to bootstrap. They can get cash flow from day one, do it on a shoestring, and grow it from there. The venture side that tends to be the I've come up with a cool product that I think has a market. It's a very different point of view. These are trying to figure out the go to market. They have the cool product. These have the go to market in mind. They need the cool product, right? So it's a different mindset. So the reason why bootstrappers are in the position they're in is they have that figured out early. That go to market is figured out early. They know what the problem is. They know where the product market fit is. They know what the ICP is from the beginning. They've got their personas. I mean, if you want to go to the more traditional way of doing it, or they figured out who their customer is and where their water holes are, and they know how to sell to them bluntly. That's what separates. That's the one that is most missed by the venture back side of things, is that figuring that go to market out.
I've interviewed many more bootstrap founders than I have funded founders. And I've been a bootstrap founder and a funded founder, and my bootstrap business made incredible amounts of money, and my funded company never made a single dollar. So there's your there's kind of proof, as a single data point.
It kind of fits, right? Now, so the company where you made oodles of money, were you like a market insider? You'd been working in the industry for a while. You knew how where all the players were and where the demand actually lay.
Yeah, I was in China. I spoke Chinese. I was the only white guy who could, and I was helping blockchain companies raise money and get them listed on centralized exchanges. I'd studied the industry from 2015 and 2016. I started making money, and until 2018 when the crypto winter happened, middle of 2018. And then the crypto winter came, and then I said, "Oh, I'm going to start a tech company that I know nothing about with the profit that I made." And like that was a really bad decision, but I also grew tremendously in a number of ways because of the experience. So I can't discount the growth that I've had as a person, as a business owner, but now I'm back to doing unfunded, to doing bootstrap business because it's a lot better. As you running a fractional firm, you understand the benefits of not needing to raise from other people because you own everything and you can decide what to do with the money that you make.
We have clients that pay themselves very well, and it's a lifestyle income. We have others that are plowing it back into the industry, back into the business in order to grow it because they want to exit. It really depends on where their heads are in terms of their lives and their lifestyle, if you will, with what kind of life do they want, and then the stage of the company and its product and where it's in, as far as the product, as far as the marketability, as far as the commercialization phase.
Have you ever worked with venture debt?
Well, okay, let's talk about kind of pluses and minuses, if you will. Menu A, menu B. Menu A, the pluses are it's non-dilutive. It's cash that you can use that you don't have to sell equity. So your payday later on doesn't get impacted by, if you can use this to build value, which is what you should be looking at venture debt for. Where I usually see venture debt come in is bootstrapping. I don't see venture debt a whole lot on the VC side because the venture capitalists don't like venture debt. They like to, have their positions, without any issues there. But the bootstrappers, of course, they're, in the position where they have enough cash flow to support venture debt. So you need to have an established cash flow, right? You have to have a customer base for the venture debt guys to actually take you seriously and say whether or not they're going to put some money on the table for that. It's high interest rate. If you take a look at it from a pure interest rate standpoint, back in the day it was like 25, 30%. I don't know what the rates are today, but they're substantially less than that.
Typically, I'm seeing 1% a month.
Right, so that's 12. I was about to say I'm seeing double digits. I don't know if you're seeing it down in 12%. That's not bad, right? So then the question becomes,
Can you grow your business more than 12% in the 24 months?
if you take in, let's say $500,000 for sales and marketing, right? You're gonna throw it into rev. You're gonna want more than to get 500,000 back out. You're gonna want to get 3 to 5 times that back out at least, to prove the concept that yeah, I put money in here, my go to market works, and I get more revenue here. So that kind of bet. If you're using the founder, if you're using venture debt for growth of your business, understand that that's high risk. That goes back to, do you have your go to market figured out? In other words, we are going to pour this money in, And then you need to have your cash forecast nailed down to make sure you can support that debt because you're going to have to pay it back. And you have to pay that back out of operational cash. So it's a two-sided story, right? What are you going to use it for? And what do you think that debt's going to look like? And then can you support the maintenance of that debt in the meantime?
Part of my argument is if you're if you raised 4 or 5 million from a VC, your seed raise, whatever, and you can get an extra $1.5 million, it increases the likelihood that you'll survive to raise your A round, because chances are you'll waste some of that money that you've raised. So this gives you a buffer. And if you do it correctly, the amount you'll be able to raise at the next round will be more, and the valuation you'll be able to raise at will be higher because you've had more time and money to prove your go to market.
So piggybacking on an existing round or shortly after a round is a strategy for later stage companies, ones that have a round. Right? Sometimes they're using the venture debt for the first time, like Bootstrapper. They're just, they've got whoever happens to be giving them their debt, and they're in negotiations on that, maybe to expand it, but it's all debt. They don't have not taken in, say, a priced round or a safe or anything on the equity side of things. If you've got an equity deal, and I've seen a client do this recently as well, we're looking at this right now. They just brought in a nice round. They're using their cash flow positive for the first quarter. They look like they're going to be. Gee, wouldn't it be nice to have an additional 1.5 million in liquidity just available in case we need it? So like a standby facility. I'm seeing that as well. You can find an investor perhaps that might guarantee a line of credit at a bank. You could even go that route, kind of an old school way of doing it. Or you could go to a founder path or something like that and get, a proper venture debt and bring cash in. Just make sure that you can afford the cash back out without it killing your operation. For Bootstrap, that's a very important question. Does it fit into the working capital profile? The VC back, if they had just got a big round, yeah, that could very well be a move. It just depends on, again, how reliable that income stream is, because that's going to be the primary driver for how much debt you get.
Is there anything I haven't asked that you think you could say to add value?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of perspective. My initial training was in medicine. I was actually in medical school when I decided that I did not want to be a doctor. But that belief in the human condition and the fact that we're employing people, right? I've been talking all about the money side of it. But the reality is that this is what we do. You and I and everybody else out there is people. And we want to do a good job and we want to have fun doing it and we want to enjoy that. And we want to have people that we work for that are, respect us and set realistic goals for us and don't change things, arbitrarily, basically treat us well as human beings. I always stress that the human operations side of your business, the people operations side of your business is a lucrative source of creativity and success for you if you treat your people really well. People will really reward you with their best effort if you respect them and treat them well and give them, proper, nurturing as well as goals and whatnot. And so I go back to my original training as in human medicine, in that companies are very similar to us as people. Corporation means body, and ultimately in Latin, right? So in that regard, it was easy. It's always easy for me to say, don't forget your people. Make sure that they're taken care of because that is really what your success is built on in the end.